Uh, I would say thank you for attending the July BVC meeting. I just want to let you know that on the SLA side, we have myself and Nicole and Jeremy, which are going to give the financial report, and Jelani. And I see that Miss Bolden, Mr. Henderson, um, Mario, Miss Brooks are on, and we did have Miss Addison, but she left and somebody's in the waiting room. Okay.
I'm back. He's coming on in a few minutes. He's getting out his tag.
Okay.
So I guess we can go ahead because he said it's going to take him about 10 minutes.
Okay. Thank you so much for reaching out to him. All
You're
right.
welcome.
I have one major item, but then I see there's like three items from the email that Miss Brooks had copied me on. So I'm okay with either or on proceeding. If you guys have a preference.
I said let's get the major item out of the way, and then we have time for the rest of the agenda.
Okay.
Does everybody else agree?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm
Okay.
going to mute my phone again.
Okay. Thank you. So the major item on the SLA, from the SLA perspective, is I'm sure Miss Brooks, and she has indicated in email correspondence that she shared with you the fact that we have supporting documentation, evidence, whatever words you want to use, that literally because she has a driver's license from Maryland, it makes her ineligible
Mm-hmm.
to participate in the Randolph Shepherd program. And so with that being said, her time expires this month. And to make sure that services are still performed over at the State Department, I am seeking your input as to any recommendations that you may have for a temporary assignment to another vendor in the Randolph Shepherd program.
Ms. Van Roche, this is Marie Bolden. I just want to say there is some blind people do drive with special glasses. They do drive with special glasses, and their acuity has to be a certain point. So I just want to say that I know some blind vendors do drive. I mean, and I was in Nebraska, and there were people that drove. And in this program, George Sullivan drove all the time, and Mr. Williams, who used to be at the State Department, drove.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for your comments. However, the baseline, I would say, for the state Maryland driver's license, you need to have a visual acuity of 20/70 up to 20/100. And if you are getting if you're getting glasses to correct it to that point, then you do not meet the eligibility for the Randolph Shepherd of being legally blind 20/200. So that's the reasoning why. So, with that being said, If you guys have any recommendations, just please forward them on to me at least by next week so we can proceed with providing coverage.
I'd like to make a comment.
Sure.
First of all, the agency is from Michigan all the way here, and
Hey, Joe, we didn't hear you. We didn't hear you. You went out. Please.
Hold on, Marie. Let me get to a better spot. Hold on. Let me get to a better spot. Hold on. I'm only working on the architect lenses that I wear. They make me able to be functional to a point, but my visual acuity has not improved, nor has it changed. I've had these same glasses since I left Michigan and now Maryland. And you cannot take my location unless it has something to do with the improvement of my eyesight, which it has not improved. I sent you my prescription. So I think this is a stretch by you, Ms. Von Roach, and Mr. Reese, okay? There's been people in this program that George Sullivan drew all the time, Richard Williams all the time. Y'all never said anything to those folks. And I think what happened is you came at me from a personal standpoint of view. And I take great offense to that. And you continue to do that. I remember when I shattered my wrist and broke my elbow, it was the same type of energy from you, Miss Von Roach. Now, you want me to do certain things in terms of you think you're going to take my livelihood, but you're not. You're not. But here it is. I've shared all of my information with my colleagues. They feel very differently about what you think. They feel very differently about what you think. I think it's important for us to move the program forward. We need explanations as to why you guys do what you do. Why have you hijacked BVC? Why have you made the promotion and transfer non-functional? You know, it's a lot of, we have no financials from you all. We don't even have a list of all the available micro markets facilities and stuff like that. And yet you continue this personal onslaught against not only me, but other members that are in the BVC. I want to know, why is that?
Okay, well, thank you for sharing your point of view. First and foremost, I'm going to speak for myself. And then I'll speak for the collective. I personally do not have any targeted measures, as you're alluding to, towards anybody in the BVC, or for that matter, anybody in the Randolph Shepherd program. I think it's a valuable program. I just want to make sure that we are adhering to the rules and regulations. So with that being said, that is what the overall SLA is committed to. So again, I'll just make one more statement in regards to your situation. If you have qualified for a Maryland driver's license, therefore it makes you ineligible for the Randolph Shepherd program. So with that being said, I ask your committee colleagues, if you want, if you don't want to, that's fine too. But I know I have to put it out here. If you have recommendations for someone to temporarily take over the State Department functions, just let me know by next week. So, with that being said, you went into the financials, okay? Right now, we have Nicole and Jeremy on. If you want to take time out right now for them to give the financial report, I'm sure they're ready to do that.
Hi, Sharon. I
Yes.
just wanted to interrupt to get the name. We just had someone join. with the last four digits of 1107.
Jerome Walker.
Jerome Walker. Thank you, Mr. Walker.
Okay. All right, so Nicole and Jeremy, would you present the financials, please?
Thanks. Hey, Miss Sharon.
Hi,
Hello, how are you? Plug that up for
good.
me.
How are you? How are you
Good.
both?
Can you give us like 3 minutes, Miss Sharon? I'm sorry.
Sure, no problem.
At least two.
Nicole, will you all need, oh, never mind, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Disregard, I'm sorry.
Okay, we're ready.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All righty, so we're going to be reporting all of our expenses and expenditures from October 1st, 2024 through June 30, 2025. We started off the year with carryover from FY 24 of $49,351. We've received a total in unassigned and assigned commission from third-party vendors, $1,465,636.36, of which we've paid out a total of $1 million for assigned and unassigned, $1,076,480.46. And that includes the first quarter unassigned payment that we issued out in January of $160,187.29. And the second quarter unassigned commission in April, $178,763.36. To date in management services, we've paid out $15,057.15. We anticipate a quarterly issuance, the third quarter quarterly issuance in this month, July, for the unassigned commission. And that's roughly 338,000 split by the 19 vendors. That's to be paid out later this month.
There are 20 vendors now.
Yes.
Mhm.
Well, yes, but that unfortunately this time that last vendor didn't make the cut for the payout for the third party. I mean, for the third quarter,
Okay, thank
because
you.
they'll be coming on next month. I mean, well, you know, they'll be receiving commission this month, but their payout is not until August.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
To date in levy set aside, we've collected $250,097 even. And then for maintenance of equipment, we've paid out $23,513.95. Year-to-date expenditures paid against POs that we currently have is $183,602.73. And that concludes the summary.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
I
Can
have
we-
a question.
Go ahead.
If you collect that much money in levy, why is some vendors having to pay to get their machines fixed themselves when it states that fixing maintenance and buying new equipment, whatever, it states in the policy procedure that comes from the levy. So I just wondered, why is some vendors having to pay for their own equipment or maintenance of their machines?
Is that Ms. Bowden? That Ms.
Yes.
Hey, Ms.
Yes.
Bowden.
Yeah, hi.
Unfortunately, I wasn't aware that some vendors are paying because we have maintenance contracts to help with the upkeep of the facilities.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I said, unfortunately, we wasn't aware that some vendors are paying out of pocket because we have contracts in place. So in an event that machines break down, that we can send the repair guys out to right size it or replace it if necessary.
Like, for instance, my snack bar is supposed to started remodeling it a year ago, and so far it hasn't been completed. It has not been completed at all. And we started out last July, I think it was, and kind of remodeling my snack bar at GLO.
Okay.
Do you know what hold up as far as money? I thought it was didn't have money to do it or finish it.
I would have to defer that question to
So,
Ms.
Ms.
Sharon.
Bowden, hi, Ms. Bowden, this is
Yeah.
Jelani. So at
Hi.
one point there was some budget restrictions that, and then there were some changes in terms of how we were requesting new equipment and things like that. Um, there were a lot of hiccups initially in that changeover, but we're kind of getting those things together. Plus, again, certain restraints on purchases and equipment, has hindered some of the renovations, especially in terms of the of the menus and the signage and stuff like that. But we have gotten things in place now, so we're moving forward with completing your location.
Well, I hope so because I've been hearing a lot of excuses for a year now. Wow, with 1 minute it's going to be done at one day or 1 week, and then another time you hear it's the same reasons that you're saying now. So I'm just you know
Ms. Bowden, we'll assure you that, we apologize for any of the or all the inconvenience, but we assure you that we're making the necessary steps to get, your snack bar remodeled. So our apologies, just give us a little more time.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Nicole, for sharing that financial report. And I think you do mail out this stuff, but email it out to the vendors as well. Is that correct?
Yes, I will do so at the end of this
Okay.
meeting. Yes.
Okay. Any other questions before we move on to the next topic? Okay. All right, so what was written in the correspondence that I see on here was there was some reference about the call down and in regards to policy and rules. Does someone want to elaborate on that?
unfortunately I don't know what the agenda was. I did not know. So I don't know if anyone else knows, but I can't elaborate. The call down is the way it was done, or something, I suppose. Um,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, well, yeah, thank you for your response. I just want to say, you all are aware that Jelani is serving on the Promotion and Transfer Committee. So he worked with them lockstep in executing the call down this go round. There were multiple meetings with the PNT, going over issues, if you will. And the only thing that was done a little different from what I understand is instead of having information,
Here, man.
like addressed on a singular basis. It was all accumulated into a spreadsheet that made it easier to share the information at one glance. And that is what technology is about, to make things more efficient. So I'm not really sure what the issues are around the call down.
Well, I think that the call down, uh, Delani is on the promotion and transfer committee, and I don't think that the way it was done was correct. I mean, that Miss Addison is chairperson, the chairperson of that committee, and she runs that committee, not Mr. Smith. And I think that was really wrong. And the way you all handled the call down, because Mr. Smith and you all did it, not the promotion and transfer committee. Whenever we do a call down, the whole promotion and transfer committee gets together and go over those call downs, not just the agency or your appointed person on the committee. That is not right. That's not right, because I've been in here for a long time. Now, if you are changing things, you're supposed to get with the policy person, sub chairperson, go over that, and then it can't be introduced to the vendors until it's approved by the Board of Education, Department of Education. So I'm just saying, I think what you all did as far as the call down was not really not the way it goes. Now, as I said before, when Mr. Smith is on the promotion and transfer, he should be on there as the finance person appointed by the agency, because when that committee comes forward to determine if a vendor is eligible for a facility or whatever they're bidding on, then he has to have the information, financial information, because if that vendor is in debt with the agency, has not paid his levy, has not paid his sales taxes, or what, then he's not shouldn't be allowed to move on. But how are you going to know? How's the PT going to know if a vendor who's asking for a facility, whether this person or this vendor is eligible for to move on to that next thing? So I'm just wondering, how are you all determining about the financial point of the promotion and transfer committee?
You've made a really good point, and let me see if I can go back and recap a couple of things. There's nowhere cited that it says that the representative from the SLA has to be a financial person. What we found, and this has been explained a couple of times, is that the previous finance person that was on here really didn't bring any value added. And because they didn't know the program, they didn't know what to look for as far as operations go financially, and what would make a person or more suitable candidate to run a prospective um, facility, if you will. Jelani has that knowledge. And as far as this call down, which has been stated, is that it was based on seniority. But I will tell you, though, that the upcoming call down, which is TBD, uh, there are things in place to, again, collect the information from Nicole and her team, put it in a report format, if you will, for Jelani then to share it with all of the people in the PNT, and then all of the decisions, will be made from there. So like I said, the only change is that getting all of the information in one central place and to be able to share it with everybody at the same time. And again, that's efficiency. Nothing else has changed. Um, I know that the first preference and the second preference rule was applied. That went well. So there's nothing different. I don't know if Jelani wants to comment on any of this.
I have one question before he does, if he is, Ms. Monroe. This is Jerome Walker.
Hi,
And,
Mr. Walker.
all right, good morning. Most certainly, technology and everything has changed, and how we gather and gain our information has changed. But are we forgetting that it's 19 or 20 of us, and all of us have different site acronyms, and it seems that that information only comes to us one way. So how is that efficient for a group of 20 people that all have different site acronyms? And we need that information in different ways.
Okay, that's a very valid point. And I will say this, during the course of that meeting, um, it did come up about the spreadsheet, and I specifically asked everybody, hey, do you want to see every single email that has come in regards to the call down? And two of the members immediately said, no, 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 we'll go with the spreadsheet. So, and the spreadsheet was just real basic. And from my understanding, it was something that was actually used in the past.
Well, do the agency plan on sending every vendor a copy of the call down? In other words, I think you all had 30 days to do that. Your 30 days are over with. So will you be sending it out to every vendor on who
Yes,
has what or
yes,
whatever?
yes, I will be doing that
When?
this week or next week.
This is LaShawn. Several things was wrong with this. I mean, I know y'all say y'all go by the policies and procedures and all of that, but we didn't have a community person. You and Jelani were on the call, which it should have been just one of y'all. I asked to see why didn't we go over everything together? You said Jelani did everything already. So, what I say just fall on deaf ears, I guess, but okay. But I just want you to know everything didn't go like it should have. So.
Well, I just wanted to just chime in. So just to piggyback off of what Miss Addison just said, I mean, of course, this was both me and Miss Sharon and I first call down that we did. So her attendance was mainly just to just see how the process was, to make sure that alongside me, we both were sharing the correct information that was needed. I'm not sure entirely. What was it done correctly? Because as Ms. Sharon stated, this was more seniority based and rather than performance based. So we shared that information in terms of who was senior leaders. Who the ranking list, should I say, of the vendors that were participating, and everything that was included. I mean, the financials wasn't included this time because again, we wasn't using any performance. But as Ms. Sharon stated, moving forward, we will be having those documents shared with the committee before we have this process, so that we can have all of the documentation together and make the decisions together. But at that time, the decision was just a seniority based call down.
And in
So even
regards to
though,
the seniority perspective, it's nothing that wasn't done before. So that was the same process.
Right. Also, just I forgot to include that it was coupled with the first preferential rule. So for those who didn't have, it was prioritized.
Well, you know, when you say the ratings weren't done on everyone, and I think Mr. Reese said that was on the agency that they. I just can't see how that call down could be fair when every vendor did not have a performance rating, just some. So it's based on
No, nobody had a
performance.
performance rating. This wasn't done as
Well,
one
I
of the.
heard Mr. Well, I got it on tape. I heard Mr. Reese said we didn't do all of them, and it's on us because all the rating were not done on everyone, and that's what he said. So I'm just saying, how could that be when the policy and procedure tells you how it goes, most how it goes? So, I mean, you know, everyone didn't get rated on performance points. So somehow it got mixed up, I guess. I don't know. But I'm just saying, I hope the next call down, whatever it is, that it's done like it should be done, like it's written in the policy and procedure. And then if you're going to change it, then you should make that a new policy and procedure to go before the Department of Education. If you're going to change anything on that policy and procedure, you should first get with the policy, and I repeat, with the policy chair, and then you take and change it, and then have it approved before you enact it.
Okay, thank you for that. And as Jelani said, performance was not done on this call down. This call down was expedited because there were 13, approximately 13 micro markets that needed to be assigned. And that's why we stuck with the seniority points. But as we are all in agreement, we all are in agreement. Whenever the next call down comes up, the performance factors will be part of this process.
This is Jerome. I have a question, please. When you said 13 had to be assigned, they weren't assigned. What do you mean when you say they had to be assigned? As to say they weren't assigned?
Yeah, they were unassigned micro markets, and it was expressed that we could no longer have unassigned micro markets because they were not vending machines. They are vending facilities. And because they are vending facilities, they must be assigned.
Right. And because of that, it was decided that we're going to do something different than, because you have already said that you're going to go back to what's normally done. So this was done because of timing. So you just said that it had to be done. It had to be done now. It
Yes.
couldn't have been done 60 days from there, and why not? Because, I mean, is there any document or, I mean, something that says this has to be done by June 2025?
We just wanted to come in compliance with the regulations saying
I know,
that
but you're coming in compliance for one thing, but then to do so, you're doing something. I mean, you're leaving out steps in the program, what most of us are used to and understand, and the way things are. That's why the confusion. I mean, a lot of the confusion. You've changed some things when you seem like you didn't have to. I mean, 30 days, 60 days could have made a difference. You're telling us now what was just done, what we just went through. Now it's going to go back to something else. I mean, it just makes me wonder. I mean, why did it have to be done? You say coming into compliance. Well, so that tech we got 2 or 3 years ago, and from then to now, I've never seen any date that said it had to be done by this date or that date. It may be one, but I've never seen it. You all
Yeah.
never shared it with us.
Mhm.
But it also directs it's correlated to the direct payments that you are going to be receiving on July 1st, starting July 1st from the unassigned vendor or from the third party vendor, should I say. So to make sure we were in compliance, like Ms. Sharon said, we had to make sure those vending, those markets were assigned and weren't, um, that they were assigned to vendors, pretty much.
I got a question, Mr. Smith and Sharon Von Roach. I'm sorry, I got kicked out the meeting, so I had to figure out a way to get back in. This is Hazel. The TAC also specified, as we were training with the experts that you guys brought in terms of the TAC, that the vendors would be able to make a decision about the unassigned. So who call down that was in 2022, how were those assigned?
Okay.
If you say they have to be assigned, how were they assigned?
Okay. In reference to 2022, the SLA is not going to comment on that any further because, as you all know, there were various cases that were submitted to OAH that were combined into one. And then there has just been a final determination where all those cases, or i.e., the case was dismissed. So that has been put to bed now. So we have no further comments on what was or was not done in 2022.
The question was, how were they assigned, Ms. Von Roach? How were those assigned as opposed to the ones that we just did? That's the question.
I have no idea, but again, I'm not gonna, the SLA is not gonna comment on what was done in 2022.
Things so change in a short time. Things really change.
Yeah.
When I first came in the program, I was under the impression by the then director that the purpose of the SLA was to help us blind vendors take advantage of the Randolph Shepherd program in all the ways that was written efficiently and legally and effectively. And I have to tell you, that has really changed in the last 3 to 4 years. It doesn't even seem like, right now and for some time, it doesn't even seem like the agency represents us in a way that we can't represent ourselves. So my understanding was part of the duty, if not the duty of the SLA, was to help us become successful vendors and make sure we stay within the guidelines of the policies and regulations. This being our program and being set up for blind people, and it's beginning not to feel like that or sound like that.
Right. I agree. Because the SLA is supposed to be an umbrella over us blind vendors. As Jerome stated clearly, the SLA was put in place to support, help, and keep us from making mistakes if we can. And the SLA is there not, if you all, the SLA would not be there if it wasn't for blind vendors. So therefore, jobs would not be had. But we don't, like she said, it just doesn't feel like we being protective or supported or helped in any way, which the Randolph Shepherd is supposed to be. It is not like that anymore. Things has really changed.
Ms. Von Roach, we had a meeting with some of the vendors at large last night, and the subject came up, and I think we need to share this with you all. The subject came up about the voice that we need in order to be able to communicate with the SLA. Now, I understand that it should be a shared voice as far as active participation, but at some point, the SLA is not listening to the vendors, and you're also not following the rules and regulations that's written. So if we're not following the rules and regulations that's written, what is guiding us in terms of moving the program forward and making these changes that obviously have not been discussed with the BVC and or the vendors at large? So what voice do we need for the agency to hear what our concerns are? What voice do we bring to you all to let you know that we need you guys to do the active participation? If you're changing the program, let us know how you're changing it.
Mhm. Thank you for your comment. And I would answer that with, and again, I'm really not trying to do a backtrack, but things have been misinterpreted in the past. And because there are fresh eyes on, what's going on, what the impacts are, how to support the program of being more efficient, providing better opportunities, that has allowed the SLA to hone in on what would, as you all say, would help or support you in better in your endeavors. So I can just tell you from my presence here, I've been here a year now, when we are finding stuff, we are raising it. We are raising it to you to say, hey, this is, what we've uncovered. This is how it should have been done. This is how we are proposing to move forward. But, we're being very candid here. A lot of the times, and I'm not saying right, wrong, or indifferent, but we're talking about communication. A lot of times we hear, well, this is what we did, this is what we did, this is what we did. Well, some of what was done was not right. So, do you continue down that path of things being wrong just because it was done that way? Or does everybody jump on the same wavelength and move forward and make things right? So, as far as a voice of communication, I would just say, and again, this is up for interpretation, but as we continue to look through things and things arise and we bring them to you, or even for that matter, if you're noticing things that were not in compliance with what has been written, and it serves a perfect purpose to move in the right direction, then everybody should be open to um, effective communication, if you will.
Well, Ms. Von Roach, I have two questions. Several vendors have gotten into trouble for one thing or another. You call the BVC and says, look, this vendor has done this vendor has done that. Well, you don't let the BBC participate in your decision on that. You don't even send us an email on it. You don't call us and tell us anything about what happened with that situation. But I'm just saying, I think the agency should give the BBC the respect of calling them and saying, this is what we want to do with this situation of this. I mean, you call us like this situation here. you calling us and telling us what's going to happen to Miss Brooks. Okay, but there's several vendors been in trouble, and you all never let us participate like we supposed to, the BVC and the agency, on what decision you made for that vendor who's in trouble. So I'm just wondering, why don't you? Why do you call us to meet with us, and then after that, you just told Miss Brooks what's going to happen to her, but rest of them in the past, we know nothing about what happened to them, because you never, in due respect, you never emailed us on it. You never let us participate on the decision being made on that vendor or anything. So I'm just asking you, why?
Okay, thank you for the question. I would say that in some of these cases that you may be referencing, or instances, I should say, that you're referencing, is that, yeah, I've alerted you to a situation. If it really can be handled outside of the BVC, then it's proceeded that way. Maybe in certain cases, maybe I should not have reached out to you, but I did to try to be inclusive. So I am learning from that. As far as, there's this big thing about privacy. I'm very conscious of, what should you or should you not talk to the BVC about. That's why, and because Ms. Brooks has already shared this with you all, but I did email her with my concerns about this meeting and how to proceed with discussing this. I checked in with her first because this is a private matter with her, but I do know that uh, because of revoking her Randolph Shepherd license, business still needs to continue. And so because of that, I had to reach out to you in order to try to secure a temporary replacement for the State Department. That is out of respect. Now, one could say, we could just go ahead and pick somebody. Well, that's not fair. So you know,
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on, Ms. Von Roach. I got kicked off the phone before I heard that conversation in relationship to the State Department. So can you catch me up on that, because I wasn't able to call in because I was, I guess, in the waiting room or muted. I don't know what happened.
okay.
So I'm
So
just now getting back into the meeting.
okay, so I'm not repeating, I'm not offering up anything that's new. I'm just saying that because of the situation, we do need to still have coverage at the State Department. And so therefore, that's why this was brought up in this meeting to try to secure a temporary replacement. It's the same thing that's been said over and over again. It's nothing new.
Well, Ms. Von Roach, um, I think all the vendors, all we want to do is work with the SLA and make our program the best program we could have. We really wished that we could work with the SLA and the BVC and the vendors at large and get along. It's ridiculous the way it has been going. But I wanted to tell you that that's all we want. And I'd like to say, is everyone treated equally and fairly, you think? All vendors are treated equally and fairly? Is there equality so far in this program now?
Well, I'm actually glad that you raised that. Um, I am trying to set up systems where just at a quick glance, someone could look at a vendor's financial acuity, operational acuity, how they interact with customers and with the building managers, with GSA, even with us, and that there is a rack and stack. You can go to, a couple of areas, and then that is evaluated evenly across the board. So that's why you're seeing a lot of the spreadsheets coming into being, even with Nicole and Jeremy being new. They have instituted some tracking mechanisms that were not in place before. And if you step back, you'll notice that when you have a question about something, they turn around the answer so much sooner than the previous occupants in those positions because they're tracking it better. So I hope I just answered your question. That is one of my personal goals, is to make sure that everybody is treated fairly. And I will just say this because I've said it before, even, changing around who the monitors are having as their vendors that they're responsible for. There will be changes in that. So people aren't just accustomed to one person's viewpoint or how they do things. There should be a standard that all monitors apply to everybody. And that's what you're going to see with the performance um, metrics that are coming up. I know there's going to be a lot of questions when everybody starts seeing, oh, this person was deducted for not doing X, Y, and Z. And you're going to see that it's going to be cutting across the board. So thank you for that question. It was a really good one.
This is Jerome Walker. I have a comment, or not a question. Ms. Von Roach, what do you think about, because when I first came to the program, our vendors at large meetings, we used to use them for training and for learning about new products and new purveyors. So it sounds like everything you shared with us, or quite a bit of what you shared with us today, seems to me that it would be very helpful if we use that SLA or the vendors at large meeting for you all to share what's going on with us, because it is a participatory program, and so what do you think about that? I mean, that seems like that's a first step or easy step, because now, a lot of things you all are working in behalf of us, you say, and then we only find out about it in the results of what you came up with, instead of being a part of, or even listening to what the process is. So we need to be learning it while you all are. You all are changing things and not even, having us involved in it, even not to just hear it. We might not have no say, but we should at least hear it.
Yeah, that's another good point. And I will tell you from my perspective, I mean, I know Jelani is on, and yeah. I really thought that the communication with the BVC was then funneled back down or out to all of the VAL members. But then I keep hearing as side notes that that's not occurring. So then it's like, you know, should the
That's even
BVC meetings be really for everybody? Or, do you still continue this dual meeting system and it just becomes repetitive? But what you're bringing up, yes, I support that. I don't know. Yes, I support what you're saying.
right, and it
Ms.
should be
Von Roach,
dual.
we have reached out.
We need.
We send them reports, Ms. Von Roach. We have copies of the reports that we send to the vendors at large from the meetings that we have with you all. So I don't understand how that can be necessarily true, because we do send meetings out. We do send the notes out to them, and we keep them abreast of what's going on. I think the shortfall is that the SLA from time to time does not meet as regularly as you should, as is prescribed and written by the rules and regulations, that it's a gap of time in between when we meet with you all and the information that we actually send out to the vendors at large.
And we also
And I-
have with the vendors at large, but a lot of them don't even get on. We just had one last night, and it was the BVC and one other person. They don't get on.
Mm. So maybe that explains why I get these sidebar conversations with some of them saying, I don't know what's going on. I mean, I don't know, but I am taking note about the VAL meeting. So it is afternoon now, and the meeting goes from 11 to 12. Um, I wanted to address the other two outstanding issues that you all talked about. And again, not really sure why you were bringing up the micro market that was allocated to Mr. Cruz. I know you said it didn't generate any money. We did go back and find that it did generate money. As soon as we found that, we did, and Jelani did send that correspondence to Mr. Cruz. So anyway, there's not an issue there. The last thing, we were talking about the third-party agreements, and I don't know who should or should not have participated in it. And I vividly remember that initially I had reached out to Miss Brooks, asking her, and she pointed me towards Mr. Walker, which he's been involved in this process. And we include the SLA said, hey, Mr. Henderson should be involved in this because he's with the policy piece. And I just want to sum up, and again, I'm not saying anything that's new. The whole purpose for these third-party agreements is to make sure that all of the assigned commissions, whether it's from facilities or vending machines, goes directly to you all from the third-party entities. That means that the SLA is no longer involved in the distribution of those assigned funds. Again, creating, efficiency on the funding flow. That's all these are. That's it.
But isn't that a responsibility of one of the responsibility of the SLA to look over any finances we may get to make sure that we're not getting cheated or anything like that? Seems to me that is one of the responsibilities of the state license agency. They're supposed to be there to protect. Now, these third parties could send us anything. We don't know. But
Okay.
that's what I thought the SLA, all the time I've known, the SLA that's one of their responsibilities, one of the big ones.
Thank you for that comment. And just to let you know that we are not out of the loop on this, so to speak. As they are sending you your payments along with the supporting documentation, that same information is going to Nicole and Jeremy. So they are viewing it real time as well.
I think they're referring
One
to
of the things that's important about active.
Prior to that the Mr. Walker, who had asked months ago when he first got on the committee, to be involved in the negotiation part of it, because that's what happened in the past, that there's somebody, finance person, that is involved in the negotiations and is an active voice at the table when these things occurred.
One reason it's important because we're now talking about the information, again, I go back to the site acronym of all of us. So, it could have been something as simple as making sure that they know that about us and that some of us might want those documents in some way other than how they're going to be sent to us now, the way that's been described thus far. So I don't know, most certainly, as it relates to the SLA, there's no blind members in the SLA. So most certainly, we could have an opinion, a question, or an outlook that you all won't have. That's the whole reason for participation, so you can get our side or our angle or the thing that's important to us. And so some of those meetings without us doesn't reach all of our concerns for that reason alone.
Okay.
I mean, if I was at the meeting, I don't want to negotiate. I might not have anything to do with a negotiation, but as I listen to my representatives, you all, I might share something with you all that will help us that you're not aware of just because of sight alone. And it's obvious that wasn't mentioned in any of those what you all are calling negotiations, because I keep hearing that all of us going to be receiving that information in the same format.
Okay, well, I'm making a note. You're particular about the format on how you're going to receive the supporting documentation. And I know there was discussion about however the documentation is coming in now, that it would be the same. And there hadn't been any objections about the documentation now. I'm looking over at Nicole to kind of weigh in on that.
Oh, I'm not certain if are you referring to the commission statement, how everything is broken out? Or which part would you like changed, or what would you like to see?
Well, just like to have those financials read to us over the phone. So right now, after you read them, you'll send them out to us on regular emails. And some people don't. Some people use large print or want to have it on tape.
Okay, you're referring to the summary. I'm sorry, I thought you was talking about your P&Ls and your commission. Okay.
Oh, I'm just talking about all choices of documents sent to us. We're supposed to have an option based on what the individual use best based on their, site acumen and what they're comfortable with.
Okay, well then I guess if we can take a like a survey or some type of collection just to see like how you would like it being sent. And that way, if there's
Well, you don't
something
need a survey. You don't need a survey. You just need to find out from each individual what they prefer. There's no survey. Just each individual have a preference. Most of us might have the same preference. It might be one or two persons who prefer something else.
Well, when I send out the summary today, I'll try to send like I said survey just so that I can get a collection of, your responses. So that way I'll know like how you would like the information to be sent back out to you and the font and, whatever specifications that you need. So that way we can meet you halfway.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Just as an idea, Nicole, I don't know if there's a way for you guys to like record yourselves, like a quick 1 or 2 minute recording of you like reading off the financials, because I think he mentioned some people like to hear it on tape, and maybe you can attach that with the documents, like just a verbal reading of what is also being sent for them to just be able to play and listen to it being read to them.
Okay, received. I can do both. I'll do both. When I send it out today, it'll be in the recorded version and the and the email and embedded in the email as well. So thank you for that. Yes.
Okay, folks, we are after 12 o'clock. I thank you for your participation. I thank Charlisa for hosting this, and have a wonderful day. Bye.
And everybody.